Farah Nasser, here we are. I can't believe that you honored us and, let us come into this beautiful space of yours, your new home that you moved into just a short while ago. You just had your second beautiful pregnancy, a beautiful baby girl. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a busy few months.
Oh my gosh.
Well, let's job, everything,
Yeah, you've got everything going on. Talk to me a little bit about what this particular pregnancy and, birthing experience was. Because they always say when you have a boy, it's completely different from having a girl. And I only have one.
Right.
So I only know the guy experience.
Right.
Talk to me about what it was like for you.
What was so interesting, and you're like this, it's, as soon as I found out it was a girl, I became so protective. Because girls are so special, and it was just I started getting fearful of like people out there, and her self-esteem, and knowing that she can do anything, and it was this really different feeling I had than when I found out I was having a boy. So that was really, really unique. But the second is if you ever want to have a second,
yeah.
The second is it's so much easier. It's just a lot more calm. We also had a really tough time with the first one.
Of course.
Really struggle in terms of pregnancy and everything. But anyway, this one, she's just a doll. She's going so easy on her mama.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that, sweetheart. So, how has your son been with his baby sister?
So he loves her.
Yeah.
He just can't stop kissing her and hugging her, and it's like the happiest moment for me. He comes in, where's Arya? So that part is fantastic, but then, he's a boy, he's acting out in other ways.
Of course.
Yeah, the other day he tried to like topple the couch over when I told him to wash his hands. So he's just, there's things that, he's a little boy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's so cute to see them together. They're just so fantastic together.
I bet. And how are you as a mom in terms of how you're bringing them both up? Because on one side you've got the guy, on the other side you've got the girl.
Right.
You just talked a little bit about, feeling like overwhelmingly protective already with your daughter.
Yeah.
Is a part of that cultural for you? Do you think?
I think so. I think that it stems from, how we all grew up in a culture, but I think even the society we live in too. Like we always say that there's equality, but there's a huge difference in terms of pay.
Yes.
There's still inequality. I still can't believe it in a lot of ways. And then we look at even other countries, and we look at India and how men perceive how women should dress and how women should behave. And there's still a lot of that.
Yes.
And she'll have to deal with that because it's not going to go away. I'm sure our moms thought in our generation that would all be gone, but it's not. So I think in that way, I'm teaching them both are equal. My son's favorite color, for example, is red and pink and purple, and I think that's awesome.
I love that.
And I told him the other day, he was going through a toy catalog, and everything is, Mommy, buy me this, buy me this. Anyway, but so he's looked at a toy and said, that's a girl toy. I said, no. I go, what does that mean, a girl toy? I go, girl and boy toys are the same. Like
absolutely.
It doesn't matter. And he's into superheroes right now. So I show him, Batgirl and Superwoman, and I'm really trying to show him that, women can do just as much as men, and you have to know that from the beginning. And, in the same token, I'm going to have to show her that she can do anything she sets her mind to. I'm going back to work after 3 months of being off, which is, a very short time. A lot of people take a year. But I think in a way it's going to be good for her too, to know that her mom's a career woman. My mom went back after a few weeks, and that was because in that time she needed to for the money, but also because she loved her career.
Yes.
So it's made me who I am. So I hope that does the same for her.
Absolutely. And you touched on something that I think is really poignant that a lot of people don't really address, especially in the cultural realm when we talk about, our girls, right? We're always talking about, let's bring up our girls to understand the power of who they are, and what that actually means. But there's also on the other side with the guys, right? I feel a lot of our focus doesn't go where the guys are to teach them the importance of the woman and how she truly is, the other half of the whole.
I love that you said that.
Right?
It's so true.
Yeah.
Because we have to empower them, and we have to make sure that they know how special and important women are. And it's so funny, since he was a baby, since he was young, anytime he was near a girl and he would, try to do anything or touch her or push her, kids are when they're little, they don't know, their boundaries and stuff. And I'd say, girls are special. Don't do that to her. She's a girl. She's special. Yes. Even with me, I tell him, I'm like, Mom, you have to be gentle with Mommy. You can't play too rough with Mommy. You have to be gentle. So he knows that we're special. We're a gender to be kind of put on a pedestal and made feel that we're special. We're women.
With the men's generation, I think that the big change from a cultural perspective is going to happen from our children, just because of who we are and just the dynamics of us being brought up in the West. being born and brought up here, as opposed to our parents who kind of came from somewhere. Right, so they came with certain, centuries of kind of conditioning, which you don't really even realize you've got the conditioning that you've got until you start having children, and then you start thinking about how you want to bring them up.
It's so true.
Right? And it's funny because I always said to myself when I was young, because I was born and brought up in England, as you know, but I'm never going to be like my mum and dad. I'm going to let my kids just do whatever they want, whatever. I hit 27, had my son, and I started to already, subliminally plan his life. I mean, you do this, and then you realize that this is all coming from this place of this cultural place that we were brought up in, right? So it's almost like, how much of that do we say is healthy for us to do? Because I don't feel that not doing any of it is healthy, but I don't believe doing all of it is either. Like, what is your perspective?
So, I think I go back to how my parents brought me up. Like, they really wanted doctors. They really wanted their kids to be, it's the cliche, right? And when I wanted to go into journalism, I remember my dad was like, what are you thinking? Like, you'll never make it. Back then there was, I think, Monica Diol on TV, and I think that might be it. Like, it was so, right? It was not even, you're not going to do this. Like, why are you bothering? It's not worth it. And then there was a guidance counselor who said, no, look, Mr. Nasser, you have something here. You have a daughter who's a born communicator. Like, you need to nurture that. You need to figure that out. And it took a little while, but he really came around. Like, I was scared to even apply to Ryerson, for radio and television, which is the program I did, because I thought I needed to have like 5 backups, because my dad, is he really going to go for this, Right. But eventually when he figured out that this is what I wanted to do, it was amazing. My brother, who's, gone to Ivy League schools and he's done really well, he's also now a journalist. He's gone into media too, which is so funny.
It's incredible.
But I mean, that was something that my parents originally, I'm sure they were like, this is not a career path I'd ever think of for these two.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're nervous, right? You have to think about security. When you emigrate, like, the number one thing you worry about, and it's a huge fear-based part of how you make decisions, is security, is money. Like, are you going to be able to have the kind of power and the assimilation qualities that you need to be accepted in this new society? I mean, being accepted in things that even in, this society, when you were going to school, those kinds of careers, even generally speaking, weren't ones that people went into, let alone someone who is from an ethnic, cultural group and is female. Right. How do you feel the dynamics were for you once you went to university and started to kind of get involved in this program? Did you feel that you had a lot more confidence as you went through the program, or did you feel that it raised far more insecurities for you? Like, which way did this go for you?
Well, it was funny because you look around and you have all these people who applied, and I can't remember, it was very few people get into this program, and I don't know the exact numbers, but anyway, you look around and you're like, I'm competing with all these fantastic people, and I was actually on the wait list to get into Ryerson, and I didn't even get in at first. I went to Ryerson every day, and I was like, here's a new demo tape, here's a piece of paper, here's a letter from Hazel McCalligan saying that I'd be good at this, and that kind of thing. And it was all like, every day it was something new, because I knew I'd get in big trouble with my dad if I didn't get into this program after making such a big hoopla. And I think I was like 7th on the list or 12th on the list or something, and I got in and nobody else got in because I think I pestered them. But it was, and then when I got in, I thought, I was on the wait list, like I'm not even good enough to be doing this, and then you're with all these amazing people. But then I started working and I realized I was really good at this. Like, I loved it. And when my first job was in a radio station. And we love you.
Oh, that's so nice. We love you on TV. I'm sorry, but I have to cut you off here, sweetheart, and I'm going to tell you why. This is something I've told you off camera, and I got to tell you on camera as well. There's just something about your persona on TV, which a lot of people can't do. I mean, like, in real life, when you sit there one-on-one with people, you get that vibe because you start talking and, there's 2 people having a conversation. But when you're standing there or sitting there or whatever you're doing, and all you see are a bunch of cameras and a bunch of words, and there's not really someone else on the other side of there that is looking back at you, you have to kind of envisage that you're talking to someone. Very few people can actually do that, and you do. And that, if in case you don't know, is the big point of difference between you and a lot of people who are on TV doing the kind of work that you're doing, I just feel like, hey, she's talking to me. Right? Do you get that from people?
Thank you. I wish you could tell my 14-year-old self this exact thing, I think it's just, I honestly just really like doing what I'm doing. And I feel like I can be myself. And I think I've been doing it for a long time, so I feel comfortable. But I love being the one to be able to tell people what's going on. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel so humbled and so thankful that people actually turn to me to get the news. I think that's just such
and they trust
wonderful thing.
It's a trust thing, right? When it comes to news, it's a very different kind of personality that we want to see. Telling us and giving us the news and presenting it to us. Someone that we feel legitimately has the credibility to voice that message, right? And you've got that. So I'm going to go back to the point where I cut you off because I had to share that moment with you. And that is when you were in journalism school. You said that, because of the fact that, you were chosen out of the 7 that were on the waiting list, you kind of felt that perhaps you may not be good enough. Where did that change in the process during school? Did it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was working at a radio station at CFRB, which was, at the time, it was a very homogenous newsroom, I'll put it that way, where there was not a lot of color and there weren't very many females at all. And it was somewhere that was, it was really interesting because I was pretty much at the bottom of the totem pole there, and I'd always try to ask questions, be there, and I think I was probably the annoying girl that had a million questions. But then I started seeing people respecting my opinion and respecting my voice, and I was working overnights there, anchoring overnights while I was in school during the day, and it was really an eye-opening experience because I was like, they care what I think, I'm not this just little rugrat who's trying to, they're listening to me and they're asking, especially after 9/11.
Yes.
There was a lot of questions about Islam, and I had a lot of questions posed to me about what the difference is between Sunni and Shia, for example, things like that. People just wanted to get a better understanding from within, and that really changed things.
Yeah.
That really changed things, and I think people's outlook, I think they saw that I wasn't just a token hire, that I actually knew what I was talking about.
You are known as a political aficionado on many levels. There are a number of very poignant world events that have happened that are political based that you've been kind of put in the forefront of. Let's talk a little bit about those experiences that you've had.
So I think that, one that sticks out to me was something that happened here. The G20 is going on right now in Turkey, and we had the G20 here, and that was something that really, to me, was a career-defining moment, not in terms of the way people see me, but the way I cover the news. Because I saw injustice happening, and I saw the authority, the police, for example, in this case. I saw how they were treating people. And usually, you listen to these authorities, and you're always told to trust and that kind of thing. And that was the first time I thought, this is not right. This is not right. We live in a first world country, and we live in somewhere where, we ask questions, of course, to our politicians, but we never really, see things as it looked backwards to me what was happening, basically. Right. And I called it out, and I got a lot of people in trouble, and there were some police officers who would not talk to me for years after that.
Wow.
But I feel very confident in what I did. I think we brought a lot of policy change forward. Not me personally. I mean, I think it was
the whole movement.
Yeah, the whole movement. And I think during the Occupy movement, I think that was another career-defining moment for me. Covering that, being there all the time, and then elections. Elections are like my Oscars. Yes. Or for you, maybe my Fashion Week or whatever. Yeah. I love covering elections. I can't tell you how hard it was for me to have a 2-day-old at home this time and just watch the news. That was very difficult.
Especially with, what happened with the elections this time.
Absolutely.
It was mind-blowing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who thought it was going to go that way? It was... Oh, and that's the best, when all the pundits are wrong and all the polls are wrong and everything, and something totally dramatic happens. It's the best. So that to me is a lot of fun. And I think in terms of politics and democracy, I mean, we live somewhere where we're able to make decisions, where we're able to have a voice. And we look at these Syrian refugees, for example, who are escaping somewhere, who are risking their lives. They have babies with them to try to one day have that voice, one day be part of a society, that has that. And I think that's just such a incredible honor and such a special privilege that we've been given. this year was part of a movement to get more Muslims to vote.
Yes.
There's very few Muslims who, or we shouldn't say very few, but in percentage-wise in terms of the rest of the population. And so this year I think we made a difference.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
Getting more Muslims to have a voice.
And also getting a lot more of the millennials, you know, the younger generation.
Totally.
How often, is there such a chunk of the younger pop cultural generation that feels that their, political scene is relevant to their life?
Right.
This has got to be the first time, at least in my experience, that I think that's ever happened in a country I've lived in.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because it happened in the States with Obama, and I guess in Calgary with Nahid, remember when he was elected.
Yes.
But you're right, not on this kind of a level have we ever seen it. I mean, we had 10 years of a prime minister where there wasn't a lot of youth that were engaged or maybe saw his viewpoint or really were part of that process. So this is going to be very unique. We're going to see what happens going forward.
Yeah.
So I had the privilege of covering Trudeau, his first election in Montreal when he first tried to be an MP, and everyone was comparing him to his dad. And you can see him really distancing himself from his father right now and trying to, show the world that he's his own man, even then he was doing it. I'd ask him so many questions because, Trudeau mania is probably nowhere larger than the immigrants that, moved here because of Pierre Trudeau. So I would always say, my father is so thankful to you, and I try to talk to him about his dad, and he wanted nothing to do with it. So, because he's really reaching out to becoming himself and reaching out to this new generation, not our parents, not all these old fogies, all this newness, and it's just beautiful to see this revival.
I think it's important, though. I think that it's a very smart career move for him to not even address anything to do with his father, because his father was such an iconic PM on so many levels that it's almost kind of like the Amitabh Bachchan, Abhishek Bachchan kind of scenario, right? You're never going to be as good as this if this is what you're trying to be.
You can't.
You can't,
you
right?
You can't go there.
You're always going to be a shadow of the man, because this is the man.
Absolutely.
He doesn't want to be, he doesn't want to be a shadow of his father.
Right.
His father's his father, and he has new issues, new struggles, a new type of community and culture and a society that he lives in, right, that he needs to address. And I feel that's the reason why he's going to make a really tremendous prime minister for Canada, because he's tapped into where we're going as a society and addressing the key fundamental, elements of what, society's asking for.
Right.
A lot of the PMs haven't done that, right? They get into their place and they do what they want, and they're not listening. Do you ever feel, as a woman, of culture, living in this world where we live, where we have the privileges that we have, that you've, so aptly addressed, do you ever feel that, am I deserving of the privileges of the first world country when other people from my community are actually dealing with a lot of things that developing countries are so, well known for not addressing? Do you ever feel like a sense of, I'm in a position here where I could potentially make a difference because people know who I am? Like, does that come to you?
Yeah, it's so funny. I think I started feeling, I was interning at CNN in India, in Delhi, I think in my early 20s. I felt this enormous sense of guilt. Because here I am in India, and I'm, the land of my people, or where my great-grandparents were from, and I'm living this privileged Canadian lifestyle, and I found that really hard. And I feel so blessed. I mean, I have an amazing husband, kids, parents, I have a house, I have a wonderful career that I dreamed of, and I definitely have times where I feel like, how did that happen? How did I not end up being one of these women in I watched a recent documentary on Bangladesh, where it's, these women are raped and they're treated so badly, and nobody believes them, and the onus is for them to prove something. And it's mind-blowing that our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents came from a country that has, or a region in the world where there is such inequality between men and women.
Yeah. And it hasn't changed in centuries.
And it hasn't changed. And that's what really gets me. Like, I don't understand how, and that's why I'm scared having a daughter. That's why part of me is really terrified for what her future will be. Yeah, she lives in Canada. Yeah, she does have it good, but it's not it's not perfect. Like, there's a big disparity between men and women still. And even how young Indian girls are viewed by young Indian boys, teenagers who were born here, who grew up here.
Yeah.
So,
well, look at the social media.
Yeah.
Right, social
the
media.
bullying.
It's incredible. And just the desensitizing of, sexuality in social media is scary, especially for the girls.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not skinny, if you're not stunning, if you haven't got big boobs and ass, it's like you're not pretty.
Totally.
And then, if you're told you're not pretty, then you believe you're not pretty. And if you believe you're not pretty, then there's all kinds of first world issues of depression and stuff that they go through. I mean, the statistics on depression amongst teenagers is unbelievable. It's higher now than it's ever been in history. Why is that? You think, well, they have everything. They don't have to deal with third world issues where, 9-year-old girls are getting raped by 58-year-old men. Like, you don't hear that story here. But there's still a legitimate situation that our girls have to deal with here with the social media and a lot of other things that they have to go through as well. So at the end of the day, what I think to myself is, all we can do as people is the best that we can do in the given situation that we live in. And if everyone around the world was to do that, I really do believe it's that simple. It really would be easier, right? And, and world peace. But you've had such an expansive time in, in news, from Rogers TV to Newstalk 1010, Citytv, CP24, now at Global. Tell me why you chose Global.
Global is just, it's a company that really wants to make a difference. And I've never worked anywhere like that. Like this, our slogan is to create a better Toronto. And the people live and breathe that. And I remember you and I had dinner, it was right before I started this job, and I was so scared. I'm like, what are they gonna like me? What are they gonna think? It's, and I'm not somebody who's very good at change either. I'm really loyal to a job and I just stay there forever. So it was hard for me to make that jump, but they're so nice and kind and fantastic. And they really support you as a journalist in what you wanna do. And I think that's so fantastic, and I'm so blessed to have this job, and them even picking me. I mean, I was pregnant when I got hired, Raj. Like I was pregnant. I found out the same week I was pregnant that I got this call about this job, and in the end, I mean, after months of I hadn't told the first 3 months you don't tell anybody, so I didn't even tell my family, and then eventually when we started talking about signing and that kind of thing, I told them, I said, look, I got to tell you something before we go any further. I'm pregnant. Are you guys still interested? And they were like, yeah, we are. We're about families. We're about, you have a baby. A lot of people are pregnant and are going to have children and have careers that they've dreamed of too. We'll make it work. We'll make it happen. And they've been fantastic. And it's very hard to find an employer or a station like that, and a station that's real, like I said, and wanting to make a difference, wanting to make change. And I'm so happy to be part of that. And
how do you feel that you're going to contribute in that change? What do you think you bring to the table?
So I think that I'm a mom, and I'm a real person. I mean, being a visible minority, growing up here, I think I have a lot to offer in terms of perspective. And a lot of people, I've been in their shoes. I know what they've gone through because I've gone through it too. I went to this school where I had to explain to people about my identity. I had identity issues, trying to understand where I fit in. I think a lot of kids probably go through that have moved here to move to Canada. Being a mom now of 2 kids and trying to have it all, which I still think is a myth. I think women can have most of it. And so I think in that way I can relate to the audience. And I think I'm just a real person. I don't just sit at a desk and wear expensive suits and go to lavish parties. I'm not that. I mean, I'm a mom, I have kids, I'm going to take care of them. I'm with my husband, I have, a great family and that kind of thing. And I care about my city.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the key, right?
Yeah, I really do. I really do care about it.
And you know what? We care about you. And I'm so happy that we got a chance to sit here and chat in and amongst all the crazy stuff that's going on in your life and all the commitments you've got, that you've given me some of your time. Thank you, my darling. I love you.
I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.